Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 147 of Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. In this episode, we're joined by a new guest, a listener, Brendan. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Brendan, you've been watching the streams and listening for a little while, and we were just chatting before we hit record. Brendan jumped onto my very, very bad, was it Brotherhood multiplayer stream that I did a few months ago, and I was terrible. I died a lot in that multiplayer stream. And Brendan, you wanted to come on the show because you had some things you wanted to talk about. So tell us what you're interested in and what we're talking about tonight.
Really, my number one is Odyssey. I've played it twice now. It's like how they have the time stamps. I have probably around 60 hours put into it. It was kind of more of a speed run game. I've kind of put it on a lower difficulty. So I didn't want it to be too difficult. Otherwise, I would just have given up and whatnot. So, it was really something that I was wanting to get for a couple years. Right after I was finished with the first Assassin's Creed game, but it was actually my brother's, but he gave it to me, and then I just fell in love with it.
Was Odyssey your first game in the franchise that you played?
No, I played I played Assassin's Creed 1. So
understood. So you jumped from AC1 to Odyssey. That's a hell of a jump.
Yeah, I haven't played any of the ones in between 1 and Origins, but the 3 recent ones are definitely something I have an idea of.
Why do I still feel like I'm the old man of here who's been playing for 15 years straight?
Because you are.
I'm like old.
2007 was a long time ago, mate.
I know. At 12 years old, I started. Yikes. 27 now. Old.
I want to say, first of all, Brendan, I'm impressed. You finished Odyssey in 60 hours.
Yeah, of course, it's the easiest setting. I really pushed the level limit. So, when it has, recommended level 36, I was really, recommended level 33.
Gotcha.
I was at level 33. I really wanted to push into the story. At one point, I had to, really grind because it was, recommended level 40, and I was, 35. And I really could not do anything. So I really had to just grind down. And I was like, this is hard. So
I think when I played it, I get a lot of bad rep for this in some parts of the community, but I don't play the main storyline of Assassin's Creed first. I'm this gamer that is always worried that once you finish the main storyline, I don't play the game anymore because it's there's nothing left. And when people are like, oh, Odyssey has such a huge grind for XP, I'm like, I never had that because the way I play games is I do all the side stuff first and then the main content. I even sometimes do DLCs before I do the main content because DLCs are always separate. So I just breeze through the story after 4 months of just doing side content. And when people are oh, you need XP boost because it's an impossible grind, I was sat there when was this game difficult? This game's easy as chips.
I had a similar thing, absolutely, because I tend to go region by region. So as soon as I arrive in a city, I unfog the map, find all the locations, pick up all the quests, chat to all the NPCs, and end up being ridiculously over leveled by the time I'm about halfway through the story. So I never felt the grind in the same way as you, Declan.
Yeah, Odyssey was definitely I feel like it was kind of like a hub for me because if I was like kind of like bored of Origins or like something another game, I was able to just hop right on to um, Odyssey, and it was like it was just super cool because for me, I can replay things. I can only replay them a couple of times before it gets boring, but
Mm.
it at least occupies some boring time, and it was honestly super fun to replay, and especially with the new game option where it just starts you over in the story, but you keep everything, um, that was a really good input to the game.
So this actually ties into a point I've just thought of now. When we look at the Mythology Trilogy, as what the last ones have been called, Odyssey always stands out for a lot of people for replayability, and it asks the question: is Odyssey, not Origins, more fun to replay because the system is so free? You know, you have NPCs attacking, the mercenary system never really runs out, and the amount of abilities you can use is less restrictive than past games. So is Odyssey the most fun to replay because it's free? What do you guys think?
What do you mean by free?
So in Origins, the skill tree is just passive. There's no abilities, no mana wheel stuff. You
Yeah.
can't harm civilians. So you're stuck on this narrow path of the only people you can farm for XP. And yes, I did attack some civilians sometimes for cheap XP. Don't at me. But in Odyssey, you don't have that restriction. You could go to a town, and if an NPC gets in the way of you with an arrow, it's going to whack you over the head with a broom. So you're more free to do whatever you want than most games, if that makes more sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like an example of that, like how you said it's free. It's like it's just open world. Um, I actually ran into a problem with that because you know how they say like you're supposed to track down the wolf, which is your dad, and then go to Megaris, right? Well, I thought um, so. Right off of Kefalonia is that like right above. I think is it Arcadia? Um, it's like right above where the Olympics is,
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
and I thought that's where I had to go. Well, I tried to take it was like I was right beginning right, and I thought that's where I had to go, and I had to defeat like the um leader there or whatever, and they're all like they all have these skulls above their head. And I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. So I just left, and then I was like, oh, I have to come over here. So I did enjoy the like you can go places before you're even supposed to.
There's definitely there's I mean, yeah, as long as you avoid the chickens and the boars and the
Yeah,
mercenaries, there is a lot of freedom just to roam, isn't there?
yeah,
Um, and it is a beautiful game that just rewards just exploring. You know,
hmm
um, so when I was new to the game, I would follow the story, place to place, and but yeah, often just roam off, find locations, and find people, and pick up quests. To your original question, Declan, I think it's I remember I finished Odyssey, I finished the DLCs, and unlike Brendan's, I'm still impressed. 60 hours is amazing to my mind. I think it took me about 200 hours to do it all because I was kind of slow and inefficient. I'd crisscross the map doing different missions and then going back and so on. And when I finished, I just enjoyed it so much. I started a brand new game plus, and carried on playing. Did the whole thing again, which on reflection maybe was completely crazy, but so what? I was enjoying myself. But what I enjoyed, and it's something that Valhalla doesn't feel to me like it offers the same thing, was just the, like you said earlier, the abilities, the combat, the weapons. You could really mix and match and try out different play styles and just have fun experimenting, which is a feeling I didn't get from Valhalla. Origins had a simpler system anyway, although there is a little bit you can do with different weapons. You've got to think carefully about how you use them. It certainly had a lot more that the gameplay had a lot more customizability with Odyssey, and that kept me engaged for a long time. Going sort of deeper into the builds and, building for crit or building for damage, or preferably both, or you can go for tank builds and just go into a fort and, really have some fun, or you can focus on ranged combat and so on. So yeah, that kept me engaged for a long time, and, picking different options in the story, in the quests, fighting when perhaps last time you might have lied, or romancing when last time you might have killed, or whatever. It kept me engaged for a long time. Did you do a New Game Plus replay, Brendan, or did you just finish the story and then move on to another game, like you said, Origins?
No, I went to New Game Plus. I think 2 times actually. It wasn't like I completed them each time, but like it was like I wanted to play, like I had one save for a brand new game, like no New Game Plus, and then one for the New Game Plus, right? So it was I was like juggling 2 different versions.
Gotcha.
But I think the reason why I was able to beat it so quick was, I don't know, I think I just memorized what, like, the signals when they're about to attack you or whatever. It's just like it just went in my mind, and I don't know, it just memorized and all that.
Yeah, I have to say I was such a noob when I first started playing. I just didn't understand that, yes, the enemies have these animations and these are your indicators they're going to attack. And it took me a long time to master parrying, for example, which actually is really easy to do in Odyssey. The parry timing is very generous. But again, once you get it right, very satisfying. I've spent many hundreds of hours playing that game. Did you do a replay of it, Declan, once you finished, or did you finish main story and then move on to something else?
I did one better. I got the game again on a different console to replay.
Whoa.
No, sadly, when I beat it, I then sold my PlayStation, so I never got to go back. But now I've got my Xbox, I'm just replaying it on a different system. And not to get into like a technical jargon debate, but I find it better on the Series S than I did on my Xbox, just because I despise the loading screens in Odyssey because they're just so still. So having an SSD that boosts past them, so you more integrates, is just fun. And the first thing that happened when I first played it last week again, because I re-downloaded it, I got eaten by a shark. So yeah, I hate sharks in games. Why did that sharks? Sharks and chickens.
The chickens, man. The chickens are evil.
Please tell me I'm not the only one who had issues with chickens.
Oh, God, yeah.
Chickens are awful.
Did you ever find the killer rooster? Like the mythical, it was like a boss.
There's 2, actually. I can't believe I've just turned into that guy. Actually, Declan. There's 2. There's one in the Greek world on a small island called Electron, and then there's one in Atlantis.
Atlantis?
Yeah, it's if you want to find it, if you've got the DLC and you've got access to Atlantis, if you want to get a guide for where to find it in the world, it's hidden. There's like a hidden room, and you pass through, I think it's some ivy that's sort of growing down a wall, and there's a small gap. So you crouch and you go through, and there's this boss chicken, and it's called Project Olympec, as a play on words for Project Olympus. And if you fight that chicken, you defeat that chicken, and it drops a golden egg. And I've got a feeling that golden egg, you sell it, and it's worth something stupid like 100,000 drachmae or something crazy like that. Maybe even more. I can't remember. But yeah, look, if you look for Project Olympec, you'll find the extra boss chicken that drops a golden egg. It's good fun.
No wonder Poseidon got rid of what's her name? He drowned freaking Atlantis. That's the worst crime of all.
He got rid of the golden chicken.
Yeah, he just they brought forth the giant chicken, and He was like, nope.
It's like a dodgy version of Jack and the Beanstalk, isn't it? Like, he steals the golden goose and then cuts down the giant's fortress. In this case, Poseidon's like, ain't nobody touching my chicken. I'm gonna just, flood the place, and I bet you he's hidden in a submarine with that chicken on his own. Just so when the world comes back, he's like, screw it, I've got golden eggs, I'm rich. And he's just there with a little chicken in the submarine. This is canon now, people. There's an Isu with a chicken.
Oh, update. I've just quickly Googled it while you were talking, Declan. If you find that chicken and you kill it, the egg is worth 550,000 drachmae. So very useful for upgrading the address gear or buying other gear.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
The most amount of drachmae I've had in one time, like without like upgrading or whatever, it was like 200,000 because I didn't really need it because I did the new game and whatever. But like I'm like, wow, I have all of this. So when the DLC came up, when you have to like pay for your boat or whatever, I was like, I already have this. Go ahead, take it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you can soon earn the cash once you've finished upgrading the ship as well. That takes a lot of money. But I didn't fully upgrade it, I think, until my second playthrough, just because of the amount of resources you need.
Oh, I was at bare minimum with it. I was like, it's just getting me across this ocean. That's it.
So did you move on to Valhalla after Odyssey?
I actually only got Valhalla like 2 weeks ago. It hasn't been that long.
Okay.
So like it feels a lot like if you know this other game called Shadows of Mordor.
Yes.
It feels a lot like that.
Just with less orcs. It has
Yeah.
it has the rolling hills of Middle Earth, because anyone who's been to England, it's like Blue and Middle Earth and our fell districts, just less goblins. So, lore questions we made skip Valhalla because I really don't want to spoil anything. So, one question I'm going to ask, because I want to get out of the way before I get in trouble. Did, in your opinion, the Assassin's last three games ruin the Isu lore by combining them into mythology?
No, I think it helped like explain it. Like I heard your guys' Isu podcast on Spotify, and I think that like the idea of the Isu and the humans, their relationship, it makes the humans think that the Isu were like gods. I think that like is a really cool version of thinking what mythology was.
Do you also think then, I'm going to use Greek for this because Greek's very important to Odyssey, that by having the Isu tied to mythology, you're more culturally appropriate than just saying, we're in ancient Greece, for example, and we're going to say Zeus was not a god, we're just going to abandon your beliefs that you would have had back then and just make something different. Whereas if they try and follow mythology but give it an Isu twist, they pay more homage to the culture in a respectful way.
Like I think that it was just a very like it was a very innocent and a very subtle way to like it wasn't like it's not like of course it's not like religious text. It's just a video game, but it's I think that it did it really good justice because it was just like how it says at the beginning of the game, it's made by a multicultural group of different backgrounds and whatnot. So I think the amount of time and effort put into it, it really like laid out what the entire mythology was, and they created their own out of it.
I see James is silent. I don't think he was happy punching Medusa.
No, I'm just thinking. I'm just listening. It's nice to listen. You know, I talk too much anyway. So, I think what they did made sense. You know, with did they really? I mean, one of the original ideas for Origins was that there were going to be, was it 12 Isu that had either been reincarnated or whatever as Bayek's targets? That was something that Darby shared in an interview last year. But did Origins really go too much? Not really in the main game, other than the ancient mechanisms leaving behind these recordings. It didn't really touch on Myth. Obviously, Odyssey did massively, as did Valhalla. It makes sense, absolutely. You know, the Norse religion, the Greek religion, is a long, distant remnant of, little things left behind from the ones that came before. Makes perfect sense to me to handle it like that, and of course use it as a way of having a bit of fun with the gameplay or a bit of fun with the stories, so you can have your mythology expansions or whatever you want to call them, like Fate of Atlantis or the mythology arcs or whatever. It makes sense to me. I've said this point before. I am looking forward to something a little more real, absolutely, but in terms of fitting the pieces together and representing people's history and beliefs, it makes sense to me. Yeah.
I think the other thing that I would love to get both your opinions on is Project Olympus itself. Now, in the game, it is used to tell why Medusa and the Minotaur is there. But a question I would love to propose to you is, could Project Olympus have more of an impact in Assassin's Creed based on the Uprising comics? Because in one of the scenes of the Uprising comics that I was shared, Minerva is talking about how the humans during the Easter time tried to fashion their rags, they tried to become like the Isu. She says that they try and sing, make their own art. One day they could become equals to the Isu. And it then has you the question, if Project Olympus is this device that can mutate human DNA into creatures, is what we saw, could it also be used as a way to create old but broken sage devices, or ways for humans to try and elevate the genome to become more like Isu? So could it have a less of a mythological impact in future games and more of a weird, twisted Isu science way, if that makes sense?
Wait, run that by me again.
Have I lost yous?
Yes.
So essentially, Project Olympus, from my understanding, was used to create humans into genetic experiments, essentially. And Project Uprising really told the idea that, well, from a nervous point of view, that humans were trying to be equals to the Isu. So my understanding is, if we take the mythological veil away from Project Olympus and take away creating human experiments like Minotaur and Medusa, could you actually then tell a story where Project Olympus was a test to make sages, or a way to elevate humans with that, like Cassandra, the 99% genome of Isu DNA, into more Isu beings? A way to create a new Isu race, essentially.
You couldn't do that with humans because in the games or in the franchises, sort of in universe lore, Isu DNA is triple helix, not double helix. So you can't just take a human's double helix DNA and add an extra helix without knowing the code. But that's what was the name of that project? That Phoenix Project. That's what Abstergo were trying to do with the Phoenix Project, wasn't it? They were trying to find sages or those individuals with a higher concentration of Isu DNA in order to rebuild or recreate a precursor by sort of grabbing all the little bits of the DNA chain to bring it back together. But I don't think you could just take you couldn't just take me off the street and say, right, we can hack this guy's DNA and turn him into or extract a member of the first civilization. So I understand it. I could be wrong.
like I don't know if you could like I think there's still a lot that we don't know about. Like in I was reading on Valhalla, like Layla's like on her computer. She's like there's still stuff we don't know about like their power. Like the staff of Hermes. They still don't know if it can raise the dead. Like there's still things that they don't know about them. So
Good point.
there's I'm like I'm sure they could have come up with something, but the things that are currently existing in the lore, I don't think that of what we know of, I don't think that there is anything like that that could create that.
Mm.
I'm sorry, you mentioned Raise the Dead, and I am now just thinking of tons of Isu, what necromancers just strolling around the street.
Are you suggesting an Assassin's Creed zombie game?
Why not? Honestly, at this point,
Call of Duty
guys,
did it.
Did they really? They had a zombie game in Call of
Yeah.
Duty. How?
Everyone does zombies. But he's got a valid. Brendan has a very valid point. Staff of Hermes heals. We know it kept Cassandra alive for millions of years. Cassandra has been physically dead like all them times, and when she hands over the staff, her body disintegrates. That just, well, she dies. That proves that it's a suspended animation. The body's not rejuvenated, it's in a suspended animation that once that animation ends, time just speeds up for the body and to decompose. Could it be hijacked to reverse and bring people back to life? Is Brendan suggesting Isu zombies? Because if he is, I'm on board. Just necromancers. But
I think Ubisoft has to listen to us, man.
Oh my word! I mean, actually, what was the explanation for which festival was it in Valhalla that had the wild hunt? What was that supposed to be? Was that supposed to be a figment of Eivor's imagination, or was it supposed to be like zombies?
I think it's based on belief because the lore that's unexplored in this game, which we discussed in the last episode, is we don't know if genetic memories are made from remembrance or is it just fact. So you have that whole debate of, let's say, James, you went to your kitchen to grab a cup of tea and you saw a shadow out the corner of your eye and you thought it was a ghost, for example. You then have that unknown area of if genetic memory is remembered memory, then when we watch back that moment for Anonymous, did you see a ghost based on your beliefs? Because it was just a shadow, and we know there's a scientific explanation, but your beliefs would state there was a ghost, so we should see a ghost in the memories. Or is genetic memories just something different, so we would see what you didn't see and know it as a scientific fact? It's one of the most complicated parts of the law that no one's ever explored and no one should explore, in my opinion.
It sounds to me like it's too complicated. And how would you actually do it in a way that doesn't just confuse people?
And that's actually like a point that they brought up about DNA now. Like they're even bringing that into reality, and they're actually trying to do studies about reading DNA and seeing if that's an actual true fact. And there's just been some studies that have actually supported that. I don't know, because you have the genetics from your great 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 grandparents, right? So I honestly don't think that it would be really possible to have the memories or whatever simulations from that person from like 2,000 years ago, because it's only a fraction of what your genetics are. Like a very small fraction. So I don't think that that's really something. Like how didn't Layla have like because she was in that tomb, right, with the animus, and then she got like a DNA sample from a burial, right, and she put in the animus. So if they take direct DNA, maybe, but not like because you're related to this person that's related to this person, to I like so I don't think it would be like, oh, your ancestor is this person, so you're gonna go back and have a simulation of their life.
which touches upon a new lore entry into the franchise from Origins that's actually been in the franchise since 1. People can at me, I'm happy for it. And that's the fact of, you are right, genetic memory is incomplete. You cannot give perfectly 100% genetic memory because you don't know. So Layla's idea of using the animus to filter in the gaps through choices would then be considered highly canon, because if you have DNA from 2,000 years ago, it may not be complete, it may not be full. Then using history and textbook sources to fill in the gaps and create essential choices and branching dialogues is a canon way of fixing broken genetics, if that makes sense.
That's kind of the fiction behind Odyssey, isn't it? You know, we can have these quote unquote magical abilities, or we can have gender choice in the protagonist because the DNA strand is incomplete. Whether you like that or not is, you know, is a fair. We've spoken about this topic a lot, haven't we? Go on, mate.
I was going to say, it can get a little bit pedantic if you wanted to, and love to get Brendan's opinion. People are very iffy about choices because it's there. It's the story that's affected. But how I played Assassin's Creed 1 compared with how Brendan played Assassin's Creed 1 actually does kind of play into the idea that of its individual choices. Brendan's version of AC1 may be different to mine because he made different choices. So therefore, choices are part of the DNA of Assassin's Creed since 1. Because it's down to how you play, if that makes sense.
It is, and that's the central argument that a lot of people would make. You know, if you really wanted this to be, we are watching someone's genetic memory, then you'd make it as a TV series so that we all watch the same events happening in the same order, you know, at the same time. You wouldn't do it as a game, but of course it's a game, so the player has to have some agency. Otherwise, it's not a video game, is it?
On Assassin's Creed 1, did they have choices?
No, I think, Declan, I assume you mean like
Odyssey, you know, and like Origins and stuff.
Yeah, but with the this is a point that I know people say a lot, which is, you know, I killed this guy by running left and going over this roof. You killed the target by going through the crowd. Well, if it's genetic memory, how can we take 2 different routes to the same target? Surely we're all exploring Altair or Ezio's memories, and they're the same for everyone. But you know, that's where you have to say, hang on a minute, it's a game. Let people parkour or hide in plain sight or whatever they're doing to complete the mission. That's the freedom that comes from being a game. And it's a fair point, you know. If we can take different routes to assassinate, I don't know, Sibrand or someone in Damascus, I can't remember which city he's in. Doesn't really matter. But you know, there's, as you say, Declan, there's always been a certain amount of freedom in these games and in these choices.
So, going from AC1 to Odyssey, Brendan, how did you feel the lore changed? Because knowing the ending of AC1, which to this day has me scratching my head a little bit, and then seeing how big the Isu are in Odyssey, it must have been quite a leap to see the direction that Isu have travelled from a lore point of view.
Like, so when I went from AC1 to Odyssey, it, like, I understood, right? I understood, like, when they opened the Apple of Eden and there's the map that popped up, right? I was like, okay, well, what is this? Like, what are all these things on the map? And I thought it was like, you know, something like aliens or something. But then when I went to Odyssey, it kind of clarified what they were. Like, if I were to have played, or this is at least what I think, if I were to have played that far, I would still be wondering that until Odyssey, like, really made them really seem like beings from before. Because you could say that about aliens or whatever, but then you know that the Isu were actual beings that originated on Earth. Like, that clarification came at Odyssey,
And
if that makes sense.
It makes sense, and then it really asks this question of then the Isu have been a mystery for over. I can't get my years right. I'm old. My brain's not working. But from AC1 to Odyssey's release, the Isu were just this footnote. They're there as an agency for an Assassin's Creed Templar War, and you don't know much about them. So, from listening to what you're saying, it's then seems like a good idea for a game like Odyssey to propel so much Isu information out there, because it takes the agency of why they're hunting for these pieces of Eden for Assassin's Creed Templars, but gives you that grander scale of this is where they came from, the origins on Earth, and this is especially in the DLC when you see Atlantis and you see stuff I made. It gives that sense of how powerful of a society the Isu were, and it kind of makes you just kind of realize how important they are to how Earth is. Especially when you do the mission and you find Medusa and you see everyone's like scared of Medusa, and then you see it's actually an apple of Eden. It's like, oh, okay, this is cool. How far has Isu affected humanity, even though they're not here?
Yeah, like, and I think that's like how you said, the DLCs. I think that that's really important. Like with especially Atlantis. That was really important to see, like how the Isu, like of course you have to go down that rabbit hole. Like, is this a simulation? Is this actual, like, real Isu? But if it let's assume that it is real. Like, it's interesting to see how the Isu, like, kind of make their way around humans, like how they interact with them and how they treat them, and it really showed their nature.
So I did want to go back on a quick point, just for some fun. So mythology versus science. Let's have a bit of a laugh. You mentioned the staff of Hermes resurrecting the dead, if it was possible, because we don't know, which is a good point. Is that magic or science?
Well, I'm gonna have to agree with you, Declan, and say that it is magic to a race that doesn't understand what science is.
And I'm bringing this up because I've really wanted to have this debate with people who love Origins and Odyssey. I mean, and it's very rare I get two people who love Odyssey together in the same room and I can just chat to them. You could then say that everything that Cassandra does using abilities is magic. She's a demigod. She's using magic.
Like, of course, you're gonna, like, the person that knows, like, if there's a magician, right, and they had do a good sleight of hand, people think it's magic, but when he knows what he's doing, it's really just sleight of hand. So it's like, technically it is science, but like how you said before, it's magic to people that don't understand what it is.
So then that then asks the question, because it's what I had with Cassandra, and it's what I have with when I think about the Spear of Leonidas. If the player knows it's a piece of Eden and it's scientific, so Staff of Hermes resurrecting the dead, using a piece of Eden to teleport, if the player knows the science behind it, could they get very fantastical in the gameplay type of how it's shown? If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand why a staff can keep someone alive for 2,000 years, or a Shroud of Eden can heal terrible wounds, then it's not fantastical. I would say something is fantastical because you don't understand it, and as soon as you do understand it, the magic is gone. Literal and figurative magic is gone. That's what I would say.
Like, it would all just come down to like to me, like, science is just like it's just something that is there. I don't know what it is. It's just the way that the world works. So it's like, like, if you answer a question with a question, is science magic? You know, like, you can just, it's like an infinite thing of questions. Like, wouldn't science be considered magic? Like chemistry and understanding systems and whatnot. Like, it's not actual physical barriers. It's like, this can't happen, you know?
I mean, if you follow the rules of the franchise, which we discussed at length in our last episode, then there is no magic
Mhm.
in these games. Everything must have a real grounded explanation, which would usually be there is a piece of Eden that can do stuff.
Yeah.
We don't understand how it does its stuff, but it can do stuff. But I personally, I don't mind a little bit of flexibility, like we said last time, Declan. You know, if there's things we can do that are a bit of fun, or there's an expansion that's a little more experimental, I'm okay with that.
So, the last note I've got to discuss with you two is the most important one is Assassin's Creed always works in either pairs or trilogies. You know, you've got the Desmond arc, which is 1 to 3, and counting the Assassin's Ezio games as one game because they're just a trilogy of one, in my opinion. You've then got, I think it's the Initiates, which is like Black Flag to Syndicate. And then you've got the Mythology, which is the last 3. So the question I'm leading up to then is, each of these trilogies impact the future of the franchise. You know, with Desmond gone, it changed up how we saw memories. You know, we were no longer just viewing a subject's memories, we were in a Helix database. And now, with Layla gone, because of everything that the franchise has done, where do we think the future goes now based on what we've seen in the last games?
Well, the franchise, in terms of storytelling, could do some really interesting stuff, but we've learned that and I'm talking about modern day here, we've learned that it won't be, because modern day is being somehow separated out, whatever the right word is, you know. Who knows? For the first time, we kind of really have in what 5 years. Actually, today is Origin's 5th birthday. Would you believe? So for the first time since Origins was released, and we had a new modern day protagonist in Layla Hassan, we don't know what the future holds and how these games are going to be framed and how the stories are going to be told. We don't know what rules they're going to adhere to, or none. You know, because in the earlier games, you had to have a descendant of the ancestor in the Animus. So you had to have Desmond, because he was a descendant of Ezio and Altair and Connor. And then we had, like you said, the Initiate, or what was he called in Black Flag, the Noob or something, who was exploring gamified memories. And then we went to Layla, who had cleverly updated the Animus to read the DNA of anyone and build a simulation around it, which in some ways was a good change. It gave them flexibility to tell new modern day, new historical stories. But now we don't know what the future is. So it's kind of a blank page, I think. And the only thing I can say, and I said this before, is I'm looking forward to some real world stuff. You know, I'm not so much a fan of the mythology. And I definitely just want to parkour through a big city and stab some bad guys.
Like, what I think would be really, because like they've really all only gone up to, like, as far as I know, is like the 1800s, right? Like, they haven't really, like, when you're like actually playing and just like jumping on buildings and whatnot, it's really only the 1800s up to. So
yeah, I mean, in the main game, in the transmedia, there's stories as recently as World War II. in the comics. But yeah, I suppose Lydia Fry. Oh no, the guy in Russia, Nikolai. I think he was 1918. But yeah, that's in the side scroller game. So I don't know if you think that counts or not.
Yeah, like it would be really interesting to see some 20th century things, because like where did it end up? You know, like it's kind of, because like we see the shifting, right? So like from Odyssey, they're the like Cult of Cosmos or um whatever, and then they shift into another group, and then that group shifts into another group, and the assassins did the same thing. So like what is the shift now, you know like, and what does it look like playing it?
That shift is very interesting, because if they wanted to tell a shift, the best game would be a game set in the early 2000s after the purge of the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, because from my understanding of the lore, that is the biggest shift for the brothers, because they were very mixed in and out of the public eye till Assassin's Creed 1, where they were fully in the public eye, and then after 1 they went back to the shadows, but then during the purge, where the Templars nearly eradicated everyone, they went from just being in the shadows to having to fully hide from existence. From a story driven point of view, a group that hides in the shadows now has to pretend to not exist, really changes up the formula, because they're going to have to adapt more. They're going to have to learn how to get past surveillance, CCTV. At modern age that's evolving with surveillance equipment, it would cool to play as an assassin who's living through the purge and has to escape to a new brotherhood, and how they use their abilities as an assassin to evade police and the Templars. I think that would be a good shift, in my opinion. But no hacking. I don't think we should have Watchdog hacking.
Oh my god, I've only played a little bit of Watch Dogs 2. I think I got it free a couple of years ago, and that opening mission in Watch Dogs 2, I didn't understand about the hacking, and I was running around this data center, like the opening tutorial level, for about an hour because I couldn't figure out what to do. I was checking every door. And then I realized, oh, you just hack the camera, but then you can jump the hacks from one device to the next. Maybe there was a prompt on the screen and I just didn't see it. Maybe I'm not very bright, but it took me forever to figure that out. And of course, that's the tutorial mission that you're supposed to be able to finish in probably about 15 minutes. It took me ages. Yeah, no thanks. And I'll tell you what, I have never finished the Black Flag modern day, because some of the puzzles, the puzzles you have to do to hack the computers, I can't complete them. So I will never get like all of the achievements for the modern day. I've got 100% sync on the historical stuff, but not the modern day. I just can't do them. My brain can't cope. So yeah, I'm with you there. No hacking. Thanks very much.
I'm probably one of the rare fans, in this kind of off tangent, who would not like to see Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed officially canonly share a universe, because how you play the Watch Dogs, where you're very DedSec, is very public and hacking and very public eye. That's not Assassins. They're not in the public eye. They're not anymore. And if they would exist, then that would mean DedSec would have hacked into Animus years ago, and they would have shared the whole Isu debacle to the entire world, and too messy. The Isu stay quiet. Let them be, before they're resurrected like zombies in the next game.
Like, the fact that you bring that up, it's like, if that was the case, like they mess with, they kind of like manipulate, right? They manipulate society. That could be anything in history, right? Like anybody doing that could be an assassin, right? Because in their eyes, fighting for justice or whatever. So it could come from anywhere. So that's what makes the assassins so nice, is like stay in the shadows, don't expose the Brotherhood, and that would, like how you said, it would expose them, or it would be like somebody's out there, and it would bring people to look around and whatnot.
The assassin's got to stay stealthy, stealthy, steppy, steppy.
Yeah, and your main character on Watch Dogs is not stealthy.
Or stabby, stabby.
No.
It's more GTA with fleshiness.
Yep.
I will say I've only ever played like that opening mission of Watch Dogs 2. I don't really know anything about Watch Dogs, but Legion does look good. I've no idea if it's a good game or not, whether it's fun, but it looks good in the Let's Plays I've watched. And I've said it before, I would love to see a modern day Assassin's Creed game with those kind of visuals. That'd be so much fun.
I want to see a sci-fi Assassin's Creed.
That'd be kind of cool.
Is Assassin's Creed not already sci-fi?
Well, just imagine like a dystopian future where like the Isu have come back, they've reclaimed the world, the sages have all come together, and let's say, year 2066, the Earth just looks like the Isu era, as it did, science is advanced, and you're now using like energy blade as your hidden blade, and using like teleportation devices to get around stealth, using like proper chameleon cloaking devices so you hide in plain sight. And it's just like you're trying to like overthrow an Isu regime in a future cyberpunk setting where you can like camouflage, energy blades, silence pistols. Am I selling it yet?
Did you pick the year 2066 completely at random?
Yeah, why?
Because just to completely go off topic, that's the year that in the Horizon universe, that's the year that the Pharaoh plague finally destroys all life on Earth.
Well, that's great.
Humanity has to be, those that survive, the very small numbers that survive, are sealed into bunkers to finish building Project Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn.
So we linked Assassin's Creed with Fallout.
And Horizon Zero Dawn.
Perfect. Great.
The plague was just a turbo catastrophe, so they went underground like Fallout. They did some Isu science. Isu, wink wink. Project Horizon Zero is just Project Olympus, wink wink. And these dino mechs are just Isu tech gone out of control because Apple Iridium got sentient. Boom, we've just combined 4 franchises together.
When you said sci-fi Assassin's Creed, I thought of like Assassin's Creed on like Alien Isolation. Then like an assassin crawling through the vents trying to hunt down an alien, whatever.
That'd be cool. But I was also thinking really badly, Assassin's Creed meets Star Wars. Just lightsaber hidden blades, zoom. Assassin force jump in instead of eagle dive,
Have you seen the latest Andy Reloads video?
No, but I've heard there's sci-fi lightsabers in Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Lightsabers are coming. If they're not already in the game, they are coming. Yes.
I want one. Just kick someone over and shout, use the force, and then when they're done, well, that's right, falling off a cliff.
Let me ask you both a quick off-topic question. How do you feel about those kind of cosmetics? Like there was one that was added a few months ago, which is like the Iron Man suit, and it shoots a beam out of the chest. What do you think about those sorts of things? Go on, Brendan.
On what?
Like on cosmetics like Iron Man suits, lightsabers, whatever.
Like, if it really doesn't fit, I don't think it should be there.
Fair enough.
For me, from what a developer has said, that like if you ride around a giant Bengal tiger as a mount, the MPs will never react because the Bengal tiger was never there. It's just an animus hack. So using that logic, if they want for a laugh to put an Iron Man, a lightsaber, because really it's just us as the player paying them money for that, and it's just like an animus hack at the end of the day, like the Raiden suit from Assassin's Creed 2. It's just a hack. I'm one of these guys that's like, it'll be fun. It'll be a laugh. I think I enjoyed Origins more when I beat the game, when I bought a Unicamel, because it's just funny. You're this big, overpowered Magi punching crocodiles on a Unicamel. Like, it's stupid. It's fun. It has no effect on the law. So if I can really, I know it sounds daft, but I really want a raptor mount in Valhalla. I want to ride on a dinosaur just because it has no effect on the law. It's just because I'm weird and I just want to have a laugh. So if Eivor can dress up as a dino hunter riding a raptor, I will give them my money because it's just for fun.
I mean, you know that earlier you mashed together the Horizon universe and the Assassin's Creed universe. We do have robot velociraptors in Horizon Forbidden West.
Yes, the Watchers.
The Claw Striders.
I love them. We need them in Valhalla.
There you go, mate. It's unfortunate you've moved off of PlayStation into the Xbox world.
Yes, I know. Oh well.
I'll send you some pics of a Claw Strider.
Yes. But
I think.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm going to take us on to another subject.
Take us on that subject because I've actually totally lost where my tangent was going.
I think we can all agree that these three have had the funniest bugs I've ever seen.
Bugs. Oh. Valhalla.
Like, with the Assassin's Creed Odyssey, if you play new game and you switch your genders, you'll actually sound like the opposite gender while you talk. So you have like a Cassandra sounding like Alexios.
Oh, I've not seen. What if you do a new game plus and choose the other gender?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious! I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, I did it one day. I was like, you know what? I think it's cool to switch it up. Well, I loaded it up, and then it's just Cassandra jumping down from her house saying, "Tell your boss you can stick it," but it's Alexios. So I'm like, well, that's great.
The common one is Eivor being drunk, isn't it? When she spawns in, which I think still happens even now.
I think my favourite bug was Origins. I don't know what happened. I fast travelled to one of the pyramids, climbed to the top, I viewed the sync point, I slid down, I kept sliding, I ended up under the map, still sliding. He just would not stop sliding. He just kept sliding under the map.
Oh, you fell through the world. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He just sliding, and it was funny to watch because he stopped sliding like horizontally, he just started sliding vertically, so he was like falling but in the sliding animation, which just looked weird. It was kind of fun.
I think I ran into that with Odyssey. I actually like went up against a house or something, like I was gonna climb it, and I got pushed. Oh no! It was I was walking in a field, and I guess like the map, it like when they built the game, it has like a flat base. Well, I started walking, and the flat base kept going, but the mountain I phased into. So I'm like under the mountain, like seeing like people walk around on horses, and like I'm like, it's like the world is built out of glass. Like you could see like the buildings off to the side, like floating off the ground and all. And I'm like, what the?
My favorite bug, and it's never happened to me, but is the black flag bug, where the jackdaw water would just like part, and the jackdaw would just like float up out of the water random.
Oh, I've had that once. It's not a bug. It's just an Easter egg. I had it and I wasn't recording, and I'm so cross. Obviously you can go and watch recordings of it on YouTube, but I wish I'd been recording. It's very cool. I thought my game had totally busted though.
I think there's one bug which I think they fixed now, Brendan, in Valhalla, that I was the rare minority that actually didn't mind it. It was the detection bug, where if you were spotted by a chicken or a bird, the guards would still see you because they shared the same AI. So it was always funny to get shot at by an archer while you're hiding behind a building because a chicken's watching you. So knowing that shed eye bug was there, it just made it more entertaining. Like, I think there was a cat on a wall.
I remember you talking about this. Yeah.
There's a cat on a wall in Jorvik, and it was just staring at me. And the guards could still see me, even though I was like in a bush. And I was like, swear that cat's like blagging on me. Damn cat.
That's when I would just take my bow and arrow and just shoot the cat. Just like, nope.
Absolutely.
I'm not losing a 1 hour run just because of a stupid cat.
I would be careful because there's a farm on Valhalla, I can't remember where it is, and I was bored. I was trying to test out my new sword. I hit a chicken, didn't think anything about it. I got killed by 4 chickens because the chickens are evil in that game. I was like Skyrim all over again. So yes, be careful. Chickens, they bite. Well, peck. Chickens don't bite, they peck. But they will kill you. So, oh, and turkeys will kill you, apparently, in Assassin's Creed, but that's way off topic.
Turkeys? What game has turkeys in it? 3 does, doesn't it?
Yeah. I won't say any more, but I'll tell you later, James. I don't want to spoil it for Brendan.
All right. That's a question, actually. So, Brendan, you jumped from AC1 to Odyssey. You've missed out on a lot of good games. Are you going to go back and fill in the gaps?
I really want to. Like,
okay.
I really want to. It's just I like juggle school and stuff, so it's hard for me to find the time, and then also personal time and whatnot. But I really want to. With Origins, it was kind of dry for me. I just didn't feel like it was like something that was pushing me to do it. I was playing until level like 12, and it's still nothing. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna chill it on this. It was just dry. I just did not like the shields in Origins for some reason. It was just something that bugged the crap out of me.
Gotcha. I struggled to adapt to the shield combat as well. I was so used to just having that freedom and just parrying and dodging that
in a way, I really wish that they would have put shields in Odyssey and not Origins, and made it like kind of like how Valhalla is, where you can dual wield. Valhalla like fixed all the things that they found in Odyssey and Origins, so it's like I really wish that they would have like put that in Odyssey first and then introduced it and fixed it in Valhalla.
Gotcha. I must admit, I never used a shield in Valhalla. Still don't. I got so used to not needing one and just parrying and dodging that I know it's a dual wield was a big thing, wasn't it? And dual wielding shields does look quite fun, but I always found like, nah, I don't need a shield. I'm too fast. I don't get hit, so I'm all right.
Well, and then you're also used to playing as Cassandra, where she only has a spear and then whatever she has. Exactly. So it's like you don't really need it.
Nope.
I don't use shields in any game I play. Skyrim, no shields. I just don't see the point. Like, my left hand could be used for like daggers, throwing knives, magic. I don't need a shield.
Well, and that's also not Assassin's Creed. Like, how are you going to sneak up on a guy with a shield in your hand? It's going to push down the bush.
Good point. Very good point.
Unless it was a collapsible shield.
Like Kratos has in God of War.
If they can have a foldable crossbow in a hidden blade, you cannot tell me they cannot figure out how to put a foldable shield in the hidden blade. I will wait till Leonardo invents it. He probably has.
It would need to fold up very, very small.
It sounds like one of those things you would get at Target as like a kid, like the Marvel's Avengers, and it unfolds into like a crossbow or something.
So I've run out of topics. Um, James, do you have anything else to say before we wrap up, or Brendan?
One thing I did have, like, you know how like with Greek myths or um whatever, like they came up with these myths, like Prometheus with introducing fire to humans. Um, like if you think about it, like the Isu could have like created like of course this is all created by humans, but let's say that the Isu actually did that. Like Zeus banished Prometheus to an infinite wall, chained him up to the wall, and had an eagle come and eat his liver every day. What if like the Isu actually created those simulations for themselves? Like they had something that they hooked each other up to as a punishment, and that was his punishment.
Damn, that's dark. But yeah.
I want to actually think that would make sense, because we are talking about a very scientific-led race. They would have found that, presumably from tons of sci-fi shows like Star Trek, they would have found that conventional prison systems wouldn't have worked. Lock them up in a cell. It's very primitive. You'd have to go one step further. It's like a holodeck.
Mm.
Their own prison, their own rules to confine to the crime. I could see, Prometheus stealing fire. His punishment would be to be chained up, and it would be through a simulation. And I think that would actually be very psychological on the Isu, probably get them to repent the crimes quicker than being locked in a cell,
Hmm.
personally.
And like that can go towards anything. Like if you think about um what was it, like how like there was this disagreement between Poseidon and Athena, and they would have like who would Athens be, like who would control Athens, who would be the god for that city. And they played like their little game, and Poseidon was mad, and then Athena, and then all came out down to be Athena's city, and that's what they thought it was. It was just like the war between Athena and Poseidon, and that's why they call it Athens. Um, but like, was that just like with the Isu just playing a little game? Because at the time they were all extinct. So like where did these come from? Like why? Like they were trying to explain natural phenomenon or whatever. But like if like hypothetically you were to, if it actually happened, like that could actually be, like there could be things that they've created that we don't even know of.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a huge amount of potential with the first civilization in terms of their stories and their technology, but the
Like granted,
more
I
that you
haven't.
reveal, the less mysterious they are. And I think I'd like more mystery.
Mhm.
I personally would disagree about more we reveal, the less mystery, because the more you reveal about the Isu would be their scientific nature, but it's impossible that the Isu came to be and immediately walked towards science. There would have been, if we reflect on humanity and how humanity is developed, we didn't walk from Neanderthals and become straight into scientific beings. We believe we had our own gods, our own societies. We grew, and I think it was about the 1800s with the Industrial Revolution, and that's when we started more sciencey and more techy. And now, even now in 2020 in the real world, we're still behind on technology. We have a lot of mobiles and stuff like that, but we're not at the level of, Back to the Future of what will happen in 2015 with hoverboards. We're not that advanced. So, to me, Assassin's Creed can show a lot about the Isu from where they are in their scientific endeavors, but as long as they never show us about how the Isu came to be and how the Isu grew from be born on this planet to their scientific endeavours will be forever a mystery, because what were their beliefs? Do they have gods and monsters? Do they have an old religion? Do they have old societies? What were the Isus like before they discovered science? And I think that's a mystery that they can't touch on in Assassin's Creed because it wouldn't make sense. Because of Basim wouldn't know any of this, or Juno wouldn't know any of this because of who they are now. So no matter how much you reveal now with the scientific endeavors, we'll never know about their origins, and that's enough mystery, in my opinion, to keep us guessing. From my own point of view.
When you mentioned Basim, that is like with Mirage coming out, that is going to be interesting.
Yes. With no modern day, I doubt there's going to be anything substantial, but it does bring a lot of interesting questions to board about how Basim's going to see the world and how he can show the world what he saw growing up, and how different it was for the Isu compared to how we see the Isu through the games, if that makes sense.
Like, I think it's interesting that they're picking Baghdad. That's like it's a big part of history. Don't get me wrong, but like that's interesting that they picked out of like all the continents and all that, they picked Baghdad.
To be honest, I think it just proves that Assassin's Creed are finally, and I'm being a bit picky, yes, I do apologise to the devs, but finally opening their eyes to the idea that we don't need recorded history told to us like Vikings, Egyptians. We need history that we don't go to school about. That's what we need to learn, because I don't know much about Baghdad because I was never taught it in school. So Assassin's Creed taking us there, thank you. Teach me something I don't know. And I think that's what a boon Assassin's Creed needs to realise, that we don't need predetermined Hollywood history of like the French Revolution, Vikings, Egyptians. All that stuff's been done to death. We need history that we don't know. Like Aztecs, give us Aztecs. The Mayans, it is probably fascinating stories, but there's a lot of stories out there of histories that we don't learn in schools that they should teach, if that makes sense.
Like, that's why I played Unity very briefly, and I don't know, something about Unity. I was like, I already know what happens. Like I was taught this in middle school, like actually no, grade school. So it's like, eh.
The thing about Unity is it's not really about the French Revolution. That's just a backdrop to the.
It's the subplot.
Odyssey is not really about the Peloponnesian War. That's just a backdrop. That's interesting. Should have thought about Valhalla. The actions of the Vikings and the Great Heathen Army aren't a backdrop. They are front and center of Eivor's. It's not just a backdrop to provide Eivor with stuff to do. She's a key part of that story.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what are you looking forward to next, Brendan?
With like I think Declan came out with a really good point. Like I don't know what they're planning on doing with the lore of the Isu with that. Maybe explaining Basim, like how he showed up in Valhalla. But like he just showed up, right? So it's like you don't really know a whole lot. And I think that it's going to be important to know about him, but I don't think it's going to be like revolutionary in the series. But I'll definitely give it a play and stuff. But it like these code red and all that I've been seeing posts on. I think those are interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's potentially so much content coming out in the next few years, isn't there? We're gonna be spoilt for choice with all these different titles coming.
Yeah.
So I feel that maybe all we've got time for tonight. Thank you for joining us, Brendan.
Yeah, no problem.
And
It's
I
been
think
good to chat. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's been likewise. It's been really it's been really enjoyable. So
it's just really nice to look at the last three games in a different view because they are divisive. The way they've told the stories is different, and the lore of the franchise is one of the hardest ones to ever sit down into a podcast or into just a topic with your friends over a cup of tea and really nail down what makes it so different. So when we look back at the Mythology trilogy, it seems that from understanding that some of the stuff they may talk about in the lore may not be the best, like the empirical truth seems a bit odd at times, but finally giving us a bit more of an understanding that Isu could be a boon for the future, because maybe it's time that Isu stepped out of the shadows, seeing as without them these games would never exist. They did create humanity. But so that's all we've got time for this week. Love to hear your thoughts on how you feel the last three games handled the lore and the future of the games. You can reach out to me at Assassin's Creed Let's Talk at gmail.com or Twitter at AC Let's Talk and at James Tidliquid. I have no idea what we're doing next time, but it's a surprise.
We don't have any plans, do we? We need to think about that.
Don't tell them this. Don't tell them we have no plans.
I was going to say, don't tell them, Pike, but you're too young to know that reference, so we'll skip over that. If you are old enough to know the reference, don't tell them, Pike, do feel free to drop us a postcard. Anyway.
that is the homework for this week. If you listen to this, what is the reference? I would like to know. I will not Google it.
Good man.
Thank you all, and we'll see you all next week.
See you soon.
See ya.